It's beautiful. Yes, sir. It's beautiful. You see Denzel on the hezzy? He was kind of like, I'm not sure. I'm going to go. And then he got him just in time. Perfect and perfect timing for you to tune in to All Eyes on Cleveland, the podcast that you can find, the audio podcast, as always, where all popular podcasts are found. And, of course, now the simulcast is we are live on YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook Live. Yes, your Cleveland Browns are 7-3. They are in the playoff mix at the 6th seed right now. It's a blast. It's a lot of fun. You are locked in. We're going to talk it all out. We have a fabulous guest here with us tonight. This is the show where we interview the most popular personalities and most intriguing people in Cleveland sports and national sports sometimes to answer the pressing issues that face our Cleveland Browns. And tonight we have a colleague of mine over at the USA Today Sports Media Group's The Browns Wire, the one and only Josh Keatley. Now, Josh is not only writes at the Browns Wire, but hosts the Browns Wire podcast and is former running back at Valparaiso, correct? Am I right on that, Josh?
Oh, yeah. Was not very good. Wasn't very good. That's why I'm sitting here. But, yeah, that's a fact.
I don't take that away from yourself at all. I envision you as a young Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Yes.
You know what? I was actually more of a hammer. I weighed about 220, even though
really?
I'm 5'6", and I was more of a hammer, which is probably why I ended up at Valpo, because 5'6" hammer isn't very hammerish.
Hey, Valparaiso is nothing to scoff at, man. That's great. And with that, though, you bring your football knowledge to the Browns Wire, which is awesome, and the Browns Wire podcast, which I'm assuming you can find where all popular podcasts are found, right?
Absolutely. And we brought in Donovan James. He's my co-host now. Donovan, he's insane. He really dives in deep on a lot of these guys' recruiting backgrounds. He knows a lot of their fathers, their mothers, brothers, sisters. It's really crazy. He's brought a new element to the show. So I'm very happy that he's a part of it now.
That's awesome. So you are here with us. So you've been on the show before. First time here on the live simulcast here. We're going to talk a little bit about everything going on. First of all, hold on, I got my notes over here, but I want to start off with, so another rain-soaked day, and I've started my questions with my last few guests the same way, and I'm going to do it with you too, but another rain-soaked Sunday, 3 straight games, weather, at least it wasn't the wind. You know, they could throw a little bit in it this time, which was different from the last 2 games, the Raiders game, the Texans game. Sunday's game is just for me, you know, Josh, another instance of one of those games that in the past the Browns would have lost. Like these games that they're winning, the Texans, the Philly game, a number of games earlier in the season, just years after years after years of them losing those type of games, finding a way to lose those kind of games, close games, mucked up games, turnovers at the wrong time, just found a way to lose every week. And they're finding a way to win them now. I think a lot of it's coaching, a lot of it's the personnel, and it's been a blast. But, you know, your initial takeaways, well, we'll get to that here. I wanted to ask you this question first. With the rain and the wind, next time they build a stadium, do you want the retractable roof? Retractable roof or no?
No, hell no, man.
No, you want the air, huh?
But how would the NFL draft look if we didn't have that constant argument? Is he an AFC North quarterback? That's vital to my breakdown and why I love Cleveland, dude. I love it. I love the elements, man.
I guess. I mean, the elements. I can't make anything out of these games in the elements, man. I mean, the last 3 games we can't evaluate the quarterback. We can't decipher what's going on in the defense. Is it the weather? Is it the defense? I mean, we're going to get to all that, but I mean, it's just a mess, right? I mean, and you got to find a way to win it. So kudos to them for doing so. But man, it has just been 3 straight games now. I feel like it's really difficult to come to grips with what the Browns are right now.
You know what? You're right. Honestly, if they built a dome, I wouldn't care. I'm pretty nonchalant about it. I don't like the way the league is heading. I'm more of an old school guy, anyways. I miss the days where you would hand it off to your Earl Campbell-ish running back or Jamal Lewis kind of running back, and that's how you won the game. But I'm with you. I do think evaluating the quarterback, though, the Baker Mayfield conversation, if you want to bring that up already, I don't understand why it's such a negative thing that he is playing a game manager-esque role. He's not. I heard someone say he had another ho-hum game. Why is that a bad thing? Like you just said, it's wet, it's rainy. He's not turning the ball over. Isn't that the key? Isn't that the best thing that we want from him right now anyways?
I agree. So, like, I would give him, the only criticism I have for him, I don't even really blame him for the fumble. It's just one of those kind of days. Yeah. I just, he missed those throws down there twice to Hooper that should have been touchdowns. And maybe they are on a dry day. I don't know. He threw the ball pretty well the rest of the day. He pushed the ball down the field a couple times to Hodge, on the sidelines. He made a really good throw, long ball, deep throw to Higgins down the middle on a great read. So, he was going the right places with the ball. Mm-hmm. It seemed like it just was that one scenario there where they couldn't get in. He missed a wide open Hooper, and then of course Kareem Hunt gets the review and they call that back. And the game's probably not even nearly as close if they score there. But that was the only criticism I had of him. I feel like he's managed the weather for the most part. And I took some criticism from some people after the Las Vegas game on Twitter, but I thought he played well in the Las Vegas game for the most part.
I agree.
And a lot of people were saying, no, he didn't. He missed this or missed that. But once again, it was a really windy day, and both quarterbacks kind of dealing with that. I thought he put him in a position to win the game. They just didn't. And so I agree with you for the most part. It's kind of like okay, great, you handled the weather real well, but that's not my main concern. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. When he misses high, and I think that makes his misses look worse, right?
Yeah.
And I know those guys were wide open. There's no excuse for that. But, you got to give him – he's going to have one of those a game. That's kind of the give and take of having him as the quarterback. But I think that the biggest issue with him was that he was making dumb decisions. I didn't see that. I didn't see him making dumb decisions. I feel like he's okay with the game plan being run heavy, and he's adjusted his game plan as such the way he looks downfield. And I think that he looks good. I think you'd be hard pressed to list 10 quarterbacks that you like more than him in the NFL right now. I think that he's playing perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think he's playing fine too. I think this will be. Here's the thing, though, right? So they went into the bye week, self-scout week. We did a self-scout show. I wrote a self-scout article. We kind of looked at all that stuff. We've identified kind of some things the defense has been doing differently, but you can't really. The offense hasn't had an opportunity to kind of really break out of like any tendencies. Like I think they're doing a lot of things that are really high tendency, and they need to watch that. And that was something that when Jay came on the show, he pointed out big time. It's like, here's a tendency, there's something they're doing. We would like to see them. He did a whole piece. They need to do the screen game more. I found a statistic about them throwing to the deep middle, where they've only thrown to the deep middle 7 times all year, and Baker Mayfield's passer rating is like 107 last year thrown to the deep middle. Like, these are parts of the field and area maybe that they will come with the offense. You know what I mean? It's like maybe they're just kind of sticking to what works right now. And they've had to do that for the past 3 weeks. We haven't seen like what they came out of self-scout week with in the past game. So maybe we get some good weather in Jacksonville, and maybe we see some different things from the past game. What do you think?
I think that I think that the Jacksonville game is going to be harder to judge than the Philly game. I think that Philly has some talent. I think that if fully healthy, we know that they're a playoff team. We know that they're a very solid team in a lot of areas. Jacksonville's a pretty poor team. They're not very good. I think that the Vegas line opened up at 7 points, and it's down to 6.5, but still, that's like the fourth highest line of NFL this week, and that's not a thing that the Browns are usually not favored by that much. So that's saying something about how bad the Jaguars are. We don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. I think their whole entire defensive coaching staff didn't have to leave practice today because of COVID.
I got it right here. Yeah, so the Jags' entire defensive coaching staff out of the building today.
There you go.
I don't know how big that is influential-wise. More so, let's go back to what you said about the quarterback, as that was going to be one of my questions tonight. So Minshew's hurt, right? And Luton was piss poor, terrible against Pittsburgh. And then, so Mike Glennon is still in the league apparently, and they're going to run him out there maybe, I guess. Mike Glennon, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know why you'd be upset with Luton after a poor performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's the Steelers.
Exactly. That line opened up last week. The Steelers were favored by 10 points. I jumped on it. I asked Donovan, you can listen to the Browns Wire podcast. I put money on that on Monday. I said, dude, the Steelers are going to run him over. And they did. He did exactly what you thought he was going to do. The Steelers have a really good defense. They have a great pass defense, great pass rush. The dude flipped out and threw it up. Remember, he comes from Oregon State in the Pac-12, where that's what they do is throw it up when they're not pressured, let alone when they are pressured. So I would be very surprised if Doug Marrone would pull the leash on him and already go to Mike Glennon. But, you never know. Mike Glennon has a lot of experience, as we kind of just briefly talked about. But with that said, he's on the 30th team for a reason. So I would see what Glennon could do. The Browns aren't the Pittsburgh Steelers on defense. The Browns are the 22nd passing defense in the NFL. So, I wouldn't pull the trigger just yet.
We're getting there. We're gonna get to the defense. I want to talk about that a lot tonight here. So. As there's a lot there to unwrap, kind of with the defense, with the weather and the injuries now. So, but as far as the Jaguars go, is this a trap game? One win. I don't think they want to win a game. Like the guys in the organization in the front office, they don't want to win a game right now, do they? Like they want to tank, right? Like they want to get the highest possible pick. I know players don't do that and the coaches don't do that, so that doesn't matter. But organizationally, do they really want to win a game right now?
I think that they do, man. I think that the ownership's kind of under a lot of pressure. I know that if you follow Jaguars Twitter, they're talking about how it's already the owner's 100th loss. And it's like the fastest an owner's got to 100 losses in NFL history. Like, he's getting a lot of pressure. I would assume that he wants to start winning some games and looking a little bit better. They already know that they're going to have a high draft pick. They suck. You know what I mean? But I think that they want to look a little bit more competitive. I think that they beating a team like the Browns would be a plus for them. I do think that they want that moving forward. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I'm just sitting there thinking – right now, they'd have the second pick, I think, in the draft, right? Yeah. So if the Jets win a game, I think the Jaguars would move to the first pick, I think, tiebreaker-wise. So, hey, Jets, they had the game one against New England and basically gave it over to them. So,
that's true.
The Jets are doing the same thing. I don't know what they want to do there. Their coach, Doug Marrone, he's going to be fired, I would assume, right?
I don't know. I know they like him a lot.
Dave Caldwell at GM.
Now, see, he's probably fired.
Yeah.
Because he's made a lot of players mad. But I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know the situation about how they run things down there from an organizational level. I know that I never like to use the word tank, but I do believe that this year was okay, Minshew, see what you got. Now, I don't know where they are with him. That's the thing, too. Yeah. Having the first pick in the draft is great, but if you're going to go Trevor Lawrence, were you going to have another Joe Burrow situation? I always find it weird and strange when teams that are that bad put all their eggs in a basket on a quarterback because that quarterback is either A, going to get injured, or B, going to be traumatized like Sam Darnold. And the Jaguars are so bad that there are 3, 4, 5, 6 first-round picks away from being relevant at all. So I don't know if that's a key motivation there. But I don't know if the organizational standpoint is firing their coach, especially with Minshew missing so much time, and you had to know your team was going to suck. They got an undrafted running back. I don't know.
The Jaguars' story is so weird, right? Like, they were at the top with their defense, and then they've just been – they never had the quarterback, right? And then it's just been kind of downhill since then. They get Ronnie Harrison. What a steal, right? We get from them as they're selling off pieces again. So let's pivot here. Let's look at some statistics from the game, some stuff I wrote down, just some stuff that I wanted to talk about here. We'll go over. This is from, so Denzel Ward, calf strain. Looks like he's going to be out a couple weeks, I guess, and that's even questionable. It seems like, who knows? Who was it that missed a bunch of time with a calf strain? Teller, right? Had a calf strain, and he missed 3 weeks or something like that. But Ward at the top of his game right now, guarded, covered Travis Fulgham, who's been fantastic for partially, not the whole time, because the Browns don't do a lot of switching sides because of that cover 3 stuff, but 0 catches, 1 target, 1 pass defense for Fulgham, who has, prior to that, had 4 games out of 5 with 5+ catches and 70+ yards. Shut down completely by Ward. 4 pass breakups, an interception, and a QB pressure that led to the Taki TD, which we started off the show with. Now he's out with a calf strain. And Myles Garrett's out again. And surprisingly, they come out with that. Did it surprise you that they came out with that on Monday? Because protocol-wise, I think they could have pushed it a little to get him back. It kind of makes me think maybe he has some symptoms that he's dealing with, and they were just like, hey, we're not going to rush you back with this at all. Because he did miss time before the positive test because he said he didn't feel well, right? So then he gets a positive test. Like, I know a lot of these guys are like asymptomatic or very minor symptoms, but he did miss, leave. They sent him home right away. Very smart, right? When he came down ill. But then the positive test, and then now right away this week, we're missing this weekend. It makes me think maybe he's having some symptoms with it, or maybe a little bit harder time than some other guys with the coronavirus.
I didn't think about that, but I guess my assumption was just that the franchise was being super transparent and careful, which I like and admire that as well. But Jim,
could be too.
You're probably right, because if you look at the Vikings, they're dealing with Adam Thielen. They haven't announced him out, and he has COVID, correct? Or was he just sitting out because of contact?
He is a trace. I think he is a trace situation. And then I know guys in Baltimore are positive. 9 people in Baltimore are positive. 5 players, 4 coaches.
So Garrett has to miss 2 games from the day he's diagnosed. The day he has test positive from COVID, right? So we already knew that he was going to miss those 2 games, correct? Because if it's contact tracing, that's when you can bounce on and off. But Myles Garrett has COVID.
He tested positive on Wednesday. My understanding is it's 10 days from when you first show symptoms, 72 hours from when you stop showing symptoms after the 10 days. So you're looking at I guess he was going to miss anyways.
That's what my thought process was. That's what I thought. Because
it's close. It's close. It's close. I guess they could have pushed it. I'm trying to think. It's like I guess that would have been 13 days ideally is your fastest turnaround maybe for that scenario.
I feel like there's been I know Nick Saban is in college, so it's completely different. But I thought there were other players who had a positive test, and then they were continuously testing, and then when they tested negative, they didn't have to go the whole 14 days or whatever it is. So you would think that the Browns would do that, where they're trying to wait it out, test them again, and see what's going on. I mean, I guess they're just going to be super careful about it, which is great, I suppose.
You might be right. Either way, then he misses this game, and let's hopefully have him back for Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Which let's hope, right? So with that in mind, and looking at this defense, Ronnie Harrison is day-to-day. Okay, so he got dinged. It doesn't appear to be serious, but day-to-day, we don't know. He could miss, right?
It feels like he's been day-to-day the last 3 weeks, though.
It does.
He's always day-to-day or probable or question, right? The last time, I think he had a concussion last time he missed a game. But other than that, he's been a little bit banged up.
Yeah, he did have an MRI done, though, after the game, so something happened.
Right?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he is day-to-day, and then so we're looking at definitely Ward and definitely Garrett. Other than that, they came away unscathed. Those are the two best players on your defense, though. And the defense played great, I thought, on Sunday. In the rain, you could throw it. I mean, let's be real that Wentz has turned into something. He is an enigma. I don't know what is going on with Carson Wentz, but he is not the quarterback that he was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I guess the ultimate question is this the anomaly, or was that the anomaly, right? Was his good year the exception, or is this the exception and eventually he's going to be good again? That's what they're trying to figure out in Philadelphia, I suppose. He is, to me, I watch him play, and you tell me what you see, but his base is so wide. Like, he's so wide, and that's like a bad sign for quarterbacks. If you're wide and you're striding long, your ball is going to be long, it's going to be off, and that's his footwork is just all over the place. And you can understand a little bit. They give up a ton of pressure to the Browns' defensive line without Garrett. I mean, have a day, OV, right? Have a day, Vernon, and that's out of nowhere. So I don't know. So I thought they played well. I asked Doug Maurice on the last show about the Texans game, and I said, how much of it was it weather? How much of it was his defense? And he goes, can I say 96% weather? And I was like, oh, shit. Okay, all right, I get what you're saying, but I was hoping for more. I thought the defense looked better than that, and then I thought they proved themselves this week. What do you think about the defense? How much of it has been a slop? It's been mucked up and they've been able to play better that way? Or how much of it was maybe Joe Woods made some schematic moves at the break, the bye week, the self-scout week, and they've been playing better as a whole?
I think they look great. The Eagles game, the last time I was this impressed with the Cleveland Browns win was when they beat the Colts. I came away thoroughly impressed with this win. Not only did they win, but they also beat the spread, which I know has nothing to do with wins and losses, but it is kind of an indicator of expectations. And the Browns, even though they've been squeaking out these wins, they haven't been beating the spread, right? They've been squeaking by. This one was a dominant performance in and out. I think that the whole defense stepped up as a whole with Garrett out. And we could talk about the mud and the slipping and the slopping, but Jason Peters is a Hall of Fame left tackle, right? I mean, that's what they said in the broadcast, 85.
No question.
And Olivier Vernon worked him like a drum. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I want to give him credit. He got 3 sacks. You're going to say he's got 3 sacks because of the mud? No way. No. Vincent Taylor, and the undrafted guy that they picked up, he played his ass off. He played with high energy. All those guys, everybody in the defensive line played really well. Seeing Taki was all over the field. I know that pick was a little bit of a.
That was awesome. It was an awesome play.
Yeah, but
I was surprised how his ball skills were terrific. I mean, he kind of caught that he was like, whoop, like, hey man, no big deal. I was worried about Taki catching the ball a little there for a minute, but he caught that thing fluidly and took that thing right in like he'd been there before.
And before he was still all over the field. He was still all over the field.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of its better.
Very high PFF grade for Taki,
Yeah.
Ward, a lot of those guys. The ones that struggled PFF wise, and this was also on my stat sheet here, Red Wine had a terrible day. Jed Will's worst day as a pro, they wrote up. I don't know what you want to say about that. They're hard on him when it comes to run blocking. You know, they're pretty hard on him at PFF on the run blocking. But those were the two that kind of jumped out to me on the scores. Red Wine was bad and missed that assignment on the touchdown.
Yes.
And Jedrick Wills had his, I guess, according to somebody over at PFF, his worst day as a pro. So
You're gonna. I mean, red one. You already know. I mean, that guy's not supposed to be on the field, right? I mean,
right.
Telford's supposed to be there. There's the Red Wine's playing basically by default. I don't think he's going to be a fringe roster guy, and he played like a fringe roster guy. I thought that they reached for him when they drafted him in the 5th round, and he's played like a reach in the 5th round. He's had spots. I feel like he's a pretty decent athlete. He's in the right place sometimes, but he's in the wrong place way more often. So that doesn't surprise me. Jedrick Wills, I don't really know why they're rating him so low. I thought he played really well. You know, the Eagles do have a pretty good defensive line. I felt like he kept them at bay. I don't really know what more they wanted. I know he's not a big road grader like Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio. Those guys are body bagging people. Jedrick Wills doesn't really do that. But at the same time, that's just kind of his style. That's not really what he does. He's more of a I'm going to get in your way rather than I'm going to put you in the dirt kind of tackle.
Yeah, he's a much better pass blocker than he is run blocker at this point in his career. So and I fully expect that to come.
Yeah.
It's just that, you know,
he didn't play bad.
Struggles. No.
It wasn't like he was missing blocks every play. I thought Jason Peters, if I'm rating the 2 left tackles, Jason Peters played way worse than Jedrick Wills.
Yes. I'm trying to think of, well, I guess Baker got sacked 3 times, right? So.
Well, they weren't all 3 on Wills.
No. I'm not saying that. I was just kind of trying to think back on that real quick. Okay. So let's talk real quick then. No Ward. Okay. No Garrett. So same thing up front. Elliott had a really good game, caused a fumble inside the 10-yard line. The rookie, Jordan Elliott. So very good on him on the interior. He had a high grade as well. Limited downs he's playing, but he seems to be playing well when he's in. So he'll fill in there nicely, and they'll use Gustin and like they did Claiborne again to fill in for Garrett. Now, Ward's out. Here we go. This is where it gets a little tricky, right? So they're going to go, because Jaguars have some wide receivers still. I mean, they got DJ Shark and who's there?
He's very good. Shark's very good.
Shark is great.
They have D.D. Westbrook out there still. But Shark's the guy. Shark's the guy that's because before Denzel Ward was going to blanket him, and it was going to be game over. With him out, it changes the game.
Yeah, so you got Money Mitch on one side, right? Yep. And then you're going to have Kevin Johnson kick outside on the other side. And once again, it's either going to be Tavierre Thomas or MJ Stewart. So far, or at least early in the season when this was a dilemma, it was Tavierre Thomas more often than not. Now, Tavierre Thomas is a special teams player, period, in my book. They should have more depth at that position. I think that they shouldn't have to play Tavierre Thomas in the slot. I don't trust MJ Stewart either. He's slow. He's short. I mean, he's okay and around the line of scrimmage. He plays the run better than he probably does coverage, in my opinion. He's almost a safety I don't understand why they didn't move him to safety earlier. I think he could play safety even, but he's slow and short and he can't really cover that well. I don't know. Either one is going to hurt you. Now, Tavierre Thomas did play a little bit better in like the 3rd game. I think he played at the beginning. He plays the run well because he'll come up and hit somebody, but he just can't cover. It's a problem area. It's a real problem area. When you're running both corners, neither one of them can cover real well, and they're going to be forced into action, I think.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think those are going to be the starting three. Kevin Johnson, I had my reservations about him as well. He plays really well in the slot, has played really well in the slot the last couple of years, kind of resurrected what he was doing with the Texans. But, when he first got drafted in the first round a couple of years ago, they initially put him on the outside, and he got beat like a drum.
He was bad, yeah.
So I don't know if you want to keep him on the inside where he's competent, and then maybe move Tavierre Thomas to the outside. But Tavierre Thomas is probably otherworldly terrible. Yeah,
I don't want to do that.
He's flat out bad. We talked about Sheldrick Redwine being a fringe roster guy. Tavierre Thomas is a guy where I don't know how he's in the NFL. So like you said, based purely on the special teams, that's why he's there. MJ Stewart was a guy I really liked coming out of North Carolina. I gave him a relatively high grade. He plays very aggressive. He's very physical at the line of scrimmage. Maybe that's a guy you want to give a shot. But again, he's a guy that plays well in the slot because he can bully smaller receivers because he was so physical. He's pretty long. He actually is pretty long. I know he doesn't have the long speed, so it would be kind of questionable having him on the outside. But I think that maybe if you want Kevin Johnson on the outside and then try to see what MJ Stewart can do on the inside, maybe bring him some of those blitz packages like you were with Ward. He's a very physical player, so I think that maybe he does deserve a little bit of a longer look. Robert Jackson's another guy that I think he was getting a lot of snaps early on in the season, but he's another guy who's kind of just hanging by the edge as far as on this roster. So I would give MJ Stewart a longer look. I really would. Tavierre Thomas is bad. We know he's bad. MJ Stewart's got a little bit of ability to him. He was shut down at North Carolina.
I would prefer him over Tavierre Thomas, to be honest. But they just went the other way most of the time. I mean, they worked MJ Stewart in maybe 3 snaps on one week and 4 on another. So we'll see. I mean, I know they put out a depth chart for this week today, and I don't think you can take anything away from what they put on that as far as, because basically it says that Ward's still in, right? So it's really hard to determine anything from that. I think we won't know until Sunday what their game plan is there.
I think you nailed it, though. I do think that they're going to lean towards Tavierre Thomas because that's just it's just based on the snaps that they've received between the two. It's been Thomas, so I think that's a fair assumption.
So let's do this, okay? I want to look at the playoff picture a little, and I want to take an assessment of where the Browns are in compared to some of these teams. So let's do this here. Let me see if I can bring this up here. Come on, Mikey, get it together.
I do want to add to the Denzel Ward thing. So who do you view as the bigger loss, Myles Garrett or Denzel Ward?
I mean, I would have said Myles Garrett until Ward has just been playing so good. It's like I feel like they have more depth at defensive line than they do in the secondary, so probably Ward.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that sentiment a lot. I was speaking with someone who's pretty involved with gambling, much more than me, and he was saying that Myles Garrett's one of the few players in the entire NFL, not just on the defensive side of the ball, that's actually worth a whole point as far as the point spread and the swing of things, which I thought was a very interesting topic. Denzel Ward is
really
not. Denzel Ward is not, which I thought was weird, but again, with the grand landscape of the NFL, and he is the running mate for Defensive Player of the Year, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. So here I went ahead and brought up CBS's power rankings this week, okay? So I try to do this every couple weeks or at some point every week, and I try to bring up a different one every time, right?
Yeah.
So I got the power rankings here, and the Browns made a nice jump up 3 spots in their power rankings to 11. Okay, But I want to take a look here and talk about some of these teams that they're vying with for playoff spots. And let's start at the top. So they got Pittsburgh as 1. Okay, and they've got Kansas City too. When I look around the NFL, I go that I still think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL, and I still would have them one in a power rankings, despite the Steelers 10-0 record. Where do you come out on that?
I mean, I would have the Steelers higher just purely based on them being undefeated, but you're right.
Okay.
I mean, it could go either way, and I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah. I just think until Mahomes is until they show like some kind of real weakness. I don't know because I don't. The Steelers are far. They have and you Tomlin's been saying this. They have a perfect record. They're far from a perfect team, and they are because they have issue. They have issues here and there that show up. Their offense can get stagnant. Their defense is extremely good, overpowering. But their offense can get stagnant, and it's almost like Big Ben works through it and usually works through it just in time to make the play that he needs to make to win the game. And that's just kind of how I view that. What are your takeaways on the Steelers? I mean, are they beatable? Where do you come out on them? I mean, are they going to run the table here? What's going on? They got the Ravens on Thursday night.
I don't think they're going to run the table. I actually put money on the Ravens. I know that, granted, they're getting 4.5 points, but I don't think the Steelers are going to run the table. To me, that's insane. I do think that they are as close to the full package as you can possibly get. Their defense is better than the Chiefs. Their offense isn't as explosive as the Chiefs, but it's still very good through the air. I mean, Chase Claypool has shown to be every bit the athlete that they thought he was going to be. Deontay Johnson, their other wide receivers, very good. Juju Smith-Schuster still very good. Ben Roethlisberger is playing at an MVP level. I mean, he just is. I hate to say it, but he is. The only part of the offense that is lacking is the run game. And James Conner is not terrible. He's just not explosive. He's just a very average plotter. So, I mean, with that offense, and they're on the defensive side of the ball, I don't really need to go into detail there. You know how explosive they are. Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick. They're stars at all three levels there, and they make an impact. So I really do think that the Steelers are I think that they would really have to fall off a cliff or something terrible has to happen for them to not win the AFC North or get win the AFC North, I guess.
You got them winning on Thursday night. I mean, especially now, you got to look at. I mean, the Ravens lost some significant firepower here for Thursday night's game. Dobbins and Ingram not so much mattering. I guess he only played like 4 plays the other night, but they've moved away from him a lot to Dobbins as their primary back and Gus Edwards, but Gus Edwards can still tote the rock. The problem there is going to be like Brandon Williams, who's like their main run stuffer, right? Yeah. Calais Campbell out, and since he's been out, they've gotten bullied a little bit. 2 weeks in a row, they got out physical. I think the Ravens did, which is hardly ever happens. So we'll get to them, thoughts on the Ravens. But if we look here at number 4 on CBS's power rankings, they've got the Colts all the way up at 4th in the NFL. What the? Are you serious? Are you serious with this? Okay, so I got an article, and I commented on it earlier. I tweeted about it because it's from the Big Lead, okay? And I found this today, and it's why the Browns are the worst 7-3 team basically in football.
Wow.
And one of the reasons they give, or one of the examples they give of a team that's better 7-3 team than them is the Colts. And I'm going, they beat the freaking Colts head to head. First of all, second of all, the other reason
beat them to a point. Yeah. That wasn't really much of a game. The Browns destroyed them. Right.
And then their other reason that they give in here is that in the last 3 weeks, they've scored like no points basically. their offensive output is terrible and not impressive, and this and that and the other, and that basically, they gave up 34 points to a 2-7-1 Bengals team, and these are the reasons cited. I call bullshit on it. I did, and I did on Twitter, but you can check it out. It's at the Big Lead, and it's. The Cleveland Browns record is 7-3 record is deceiving, but he calls in here that the Browns might be 7-3, but they are by far the worst team to hold that record at this point in the season. So there's that. I mean, and so, and that is, and so those were the 2 points I had. The Colts are fourth on our power rankings here, but. What I mean, the Browns are 11th, and they beat them head to head. Explain that to me.
So are they the highest ranked 7-3 team on this list?
Let's take a look here. Yes, so 10-0 Steelers, 9-1 Chiefs, 8-2 Saints, and the highest ranked 7-3 team on these power rankings is the Colts. Which okay, you can make the case that they weren't at full strength. But I don't really buy that. The Browns were a little bit dominant in my opinion against them and beat them at their own game. Right? Like what they want to do is out physical you, and the Browns out physical them.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked by this as well. Because the Colts' rushing offense isn't very good. They drafted Jonathan Taylor in the second round. He's kind of been lackluster. Jordan Wilkins isn't very good. Was never very good. Marlon Mack's hurt. The rushing offense has never really taken off. Phillip Rivers is pretty unathletic, so he throws it up. The only thing that's really evolved about the Colts' offense is Michael Pittman, the rookie from USC. He's really he's developed very nicely, and he is a threat.
Yes.
And I do think that makes their offense scarier than when the Browns played them. But to have them as the highest-ranked 7-3 team, I think is a little ridiculous. Their defense is good, but they're not the Steelers. So I think you can make an argument if you want to tell me that the Colts are the best team, the 7-3 team. I'm not going to call you insane. But that one article that you read about the Browns being the worst 7-3 team and being that passionate about it, that is insane. I don't think you can talk about the Colts being. I think the gap between the Colts and the Browns is very, 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 very small. And I would make the argument that the Browns are better than the Colts based on the fact that they, owned them,
beat them. Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a fluke by any means.
Not at all. Not at all. The Colts started coming back a little bit in the second half because Baker kind of fell off a cliff. But in that first half, the Colts were pretty much dead in the water.
So since then, though, the Colts have gotten hot, obviously, and have some impressive wins. So this is why they are up here. They caught Tennessee, right, in their division and beat them. And then beat the Packers, which shocked me very much so this weekend in a close one, but they edged out the Packers. So they are up 8 spots on this rankings. The Packers are 5; they're 7-3. The Rams are 6; they're 7-3. I thought the Rams looked exceptional the past couple weeks. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Aaron Donald's pretty much unstoppable. Jared Goff has definitely proven to be worth every penny that they've given him. Their receiving core is good with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. It's a pretty dominating team. They look very good.
Bills are 7-3. They're going to win that division, so that doesn't really matter in our scheme of things here, right? For the AFC, the Titans though are 7-3, tied with the Colts. At the top of that division. We get them after Jacksonville. Should be 8-3. And then, they still have another game with the Colts, I believe. So some of this stuff should get hashed out just in divisional play, right?
Oh, yeah.
And some teams are going to lose just in that manner. So they've got us at 11, and then so I want to talk to you about Tennessee at 9, and then they've got the Ravens all the way down to 12 below us at 6-4. thoughts on what you've seen from the Ravens recently. What's their issue right now? Them losing, them losing some games here, to get to 6-4, a bit surprising, but still, they're a very good football team, and the Browns got smoked by them week 1, which I kind of throw out the window because it was week 1 in a no preseason season, but I think reality has the Browns somewhere closer to the Ravens. I don't know how close, though. What do you think about where the Browns stand with the Ravens? Can they play with them in a game? When they face on Monday Night Football, just because the Browns, if they handle their business against Jacksonville, even if they lose to Tennessee, they have the opportunity to beat them on Monday Night Football at home and pretty much set themselves up to be the second-place team in the AFC North and get in if they were to win that game. That game is going to be huge, absolutely gigantic, no matter which way you cut it. Where are you at with the Browns and the Ravens, and where the Ravens are at right now?
I think they are close. I think that the Steelers are the top of the class as far as AFC North goes, and the Browns are pretty close to usurping the Ravens in that second spot. But with that said, if you're asking me to predict the future, I think that they'll beat the Browns in 2 weeks. I do think that the Ravens Lamar Jackson feasts on undisciplined linebackers, and the Browns, that's all they have at linebacker is a bunch of undisciplined guys back there. So I think that that's kind of the gimme. I think that the reason you're seeing the Ravens kind of slack is because their offense has been stagnant. They run, 5 plays. Their offensive playbook is like a Madden playbook. It's not very big, and they just are very efficient, and they have played well-disciplined assignment football. But people are kind of catching up to what Lamar's doing. Now, Lamar's great. I think he's going to get out of this funk. I think it could happen this week against the Steelers when they're on the short week, because I do think you have to have a full week's prep for Lamar Jackson. So I think we could see him burst out this week despite not having Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. But that's just the kind of quarterback he is. So if you're asking me who's going to win in 2 weeks, the Ravens or the Browns, I'm taking the Ravens, unfortunately.
He has had – it's hard to identify whether the problem is Lamar throwing outside the numbers or the receivers getting open outside the numbers, right? But there is some stark statistics that tell a story that they cannot throw the ball outside the numbers at all. And if you can force them to do that, you're in really good shape. So they're still the best run game probably in the NFL. But if you can force them to do that, I think that you open up a weakness, and they have really struggled in the pass game. And because they just, there's only so much you can do, and at some point, no matter what, at any time a team is good, and they're doing one thing successful for so long, this is true, the NFL starts to figure you out. Absolutely. They always do. And I think that might be happening a little bit with the Ravens right now. So as far as the Browns go, breaking down what has worked the last few weeks against them will be absolutely key for that Monday night game.
Yeah, Greg Roman is the OC there, and he doesn't do a very good job of self-evaluating himself. He did the same thing at the Niners when the Niners kind of fell off. Granted, there was a lot of other factors going there too, but he just doesn't really do a good job of adjusting his game plan as they go. We've seen Kevin Stefanski change how the offense of Cleveland works based off of who he has in there that's healthy and blah, 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 Baker, blah, 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 blah. He's adjusted. It's not the same team it was 5 weeks ago. The Ravens are the exact same team. They're in the exact same plays, the exact same tendencies that they did 5 weeks ago, and that's not a good thing in the NFL. You got to kind of always be evolving. I do think it's more of the outside issue. That's a product of the receivers. When your second best receiver is Willie Snead, who was cut from Cleveland when Cleveland was in the butthole of the division. That's the issue. Marquise Brown is really your only threat outside the numbers. That their offense doesn't rely on that. It's when their passing game is dink it to Mark Andrews 45 times and then hope that when everybody moves up to guard the tight end, you can throw it over the top to Marquise Brown. Maybe that's something they look for to adjust in the offseason, but it's too late for that this season. They got no outside threats.
Yeah, they definitely need to add weapons there in their offseason. And that and then the other two teams here that linger. Well, I'll call it three, okay, in the AFC, and I'll get your opinion on this. Raiders at 13 here in CBS's power rankings. The Dolphins at 14, Cardinals 15. Vikings 16. I don't know about that. And then the Patriots at 17. Are the Patriots at 4-6? Are you calling them done? Are they cooked, or do you still think they linger?
I'm never going to call a Bill Belichick coach team cooked. There's always a chance. They're in every game. The Houston Texans game was weird. They shouldn't have lost that game. I actually had money on the Patriots that week, but it was kind of a fluke. I'm never going to call Bill Belichick coach team done.
They're 4-6. I think with the number of 7-3, 6-4 teams you have, they have to win out to have a chance.
They got to turn it on. That? Cam Newton has got to find his way. He's shown flashes of old Cam, but dude, that guy's just there. That's a guy who's lost part of his ability, and he's not adjusting his game to it. He still thinks he's old Cam, pre-injury Cam, who can stiff arm 3 defensive tackles and still throw it through the needle 50 yards down the field. That's not who he is anymore. He's got to adjust that, and he's really, really struggling to do it. He's not understanding that life has passed him by a little bit.
I would agree. I would agree. They lack weapons as well, though. They really do. Jacoby Myers is a good player. But they don't get a lot of separation out there on the outside. Their wide receivers struggle too. The Dolphins now, everybody picked the Dolphins this week to go into Denver and win.
Yeah.
They didn't. And Tua gets pulled after all this. And I'm looking at the Dolphins like, holy crap, they're going to take one of these spots. They go out there and get beat, and Tua gets pulled. Are they out now because they're just not ready yet, or what? Fitz magic, Fitz tragic. Which one's it gonna be? Is it them, or is it Tua? What? I don't know what they're gonna do next, starting wise, but they feel like they may be fading now. Like maybe they were a flash in the pan here for a minute, or do you think they're in this for the long haul here to try to get in one of these spots?
I think Brian Flores is a great coach. I think he should be.
I do too.
Mike Tomlin, coach of the year, because he's undefeated at this point, and Brian Flores is right behind him. I think that they're a good version of the Jaguars. I think that their expectations were low, and they don't expect anything, and they're wanting to dip their toe in the Tua water. And I think they did a good thing by pulling Tua. You don't want a Joe Burrow situation. I think he was sacked 3 times that day. So, you're not going to win. Pull him. You got nothing left to lose. You're not going to hurt his confidence because he knows he's the guy. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is the perfect quarterback to put in there. He's kind of like that. He's got that Josh McCown attitude where, I'll clean it up for you, buddy. Goes in there, and then he knows his place on the bench for the next week. I think that the Dolphins are just a good version of the Jaguars. I don't put any stock in them. I think if they slip into the playoffs, which I don't think they will, they're not going to make any noise. They're just not ready yet. They're just a well-coached team with some young talent that's doing something positive.
Okay. I don't think they get in my opinion. I think they fade a little bit here, but it's interesting that you said you have your coach of the year is Mike Tomlin, right?
Well, I think it would be Brian Flores because of the job he's done with such a terrible roster. But if Mike Tomlin keeps on track, obviously he's not going to go undefeated. But if he only loses 2 games, it's kind of hard to disagree with that, right?
I guess. I think you can make a case for Kevin Stefanski.
Really?
I really do. Look at the Browns last year. Look at the Browns for the last 20 years. This is a guy that came in and did this on a year that he had no time, nothing, brand new, no preseason. What he's done is nothing short of remarkable, in my opinion, with the Browns.
I think that that's a fair analysis, and I think it's accurate. I don't think the media is going to view it that way. I think they're going to look at the Browns and they're going to see OBJ. They're going to see the number 1 pick Baker. They're going to see 2 Pro Bowl running backs. They're going to see Jarvis Landry, Myles Garrett. They're going to see that star power and think that think that a very average, even a below average coach could get them to 7, 8 wins, if that makes sense. I think when you look at the Dolphins, I think you got 2 extremes. The Steelers are going to be so good record-wise that you have to say, okay, well, Tomlin's done a good job there. And the Dolphins are so terrible skill-wise that you have to say, oh, well, he's done a great job there raising the talent level. The Browns are kind of stuck in the middle where it's like, I don't know if they're going to get the recognition. I don't know if Stefanski's going to get the recognition he deserves because of the talent and the expectations that have been floating around Cleveland for the last 3 years.
It's a good point. I didn't think of it that way. The reason I don't think of it, I haven't thought of it that way, I think, Josh, is because of the way they've been winning with the run game. Like, they haven't won that way at all. It hasn't been because of their flashy talent. It's just been because they're a tough, physical football team. And a lot of what Stefanski does is the reason they win. Like, he shows patience beyond his years with the run game. There are not a lot of coaches that can be as patient and is like, he's trying this, he's going to try this scheme, he's going to try that scheme, he's going to test this. Like he was talking about, they weren't getting anything in the run game early, but he was going to test out till it worked, and then you get Chubb with 20 rushes for over 100 yards, and just because and that's difficult. I mean, that's good coaching. And every week, and I said this at the beginning of the season, Josh, I watched the Browns' first game and they got killed, right? And obviously I was pissed. And then and then I watched the Giants play in a primetime game, and they played a close game against somebody that they really didn't have business playing a close game against. It was week 1, right? Mm-hmm. And I went on my show and I said the Giants were in this game because they had a good game plan and they were organized and they didn't commit penalties and they didn't do this but they had no business beating this team, but they were in this game till the end because of it. That's what I want from a head coach. Somebody that's going to put together a game plan, that's going to have you in a game every week with a chance to win, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then since I said that, he's done that every week. He's done that every week with the exception of Pittsburgh, I would say.
Yeah, and he definitely doesn't get enough credit for – I don't want to call it innovative because running the ball isn't innovative, but he doesn't get enough credit for going against the grain in the NFL. In a day and age where we're seeing high, quarterbacks throwing it 60 times a game and everything's so focused on the pass, he's got these 2 running backs that the entire offense focuses around. And like you said, he doesn't slow up. Going into the halftime, they had 18 carries for 13 yards. And he stuck to that old school mentality. We're going to wear them down. Eventually it's going to pop. Eventually it's going to pop. And it's worked, and it's worked on a consistent basis. And I think it takes some pretty big cojones to go against the grain like that. And, I mean, in 3 years, we might be looking at the Browns having the 2 highest paid running backs in the NFL. And I think that that's realistic. And it might be the way Stefanski may be on the cutting edge of reversing the course of the NFL, and I don't know if we're really grasping that yet, because it is. We're talking about a guy that spent money on the offensive line, the tight ends, and the running backs. OBJ and Jarvis Landry were not his deal. They were not him and his regime's deal. He brought in the tight ends, the running backs, and the offensive line, and I think that he deserves a lot of credit for tipping the scales back to that old school shove it down their throat offense.
Yeah, I wouldn't say innovative either, but he does do some things that are, he is innovative in his own way, in his own style, the rollouts, the play action, that's why I'm interested to see this Jaguars game, is because we haven't seen that pass game where they got a chance to say, hey, there's a tendency we're doing this too much. It's obvious when we're going to run this, you know what I mean? or it's obviously when we're in this formation, we're going to run the ball here or whatever. And those tendencies seem to come out when you do the self-scout bye week. And I want to see their adjustments in the pass game when the weather is halfway decent so you can throw the ball down the field.
It'll be interesting to see what he does, because I still think I just think that's how he is. It's a run based offense, and I think with defenses, with the NFL so focused on the passing game, you're seeing NFL defenses getting smaller and faster. So it might be time where you could take a guy like Nick Chubb and Wyatt Teller and just grind it out and take advantage of those small guys. I mean, Nick Chubb stiff armed. Who did he stiff arm last week? It was a linebacker. That stiff arm.
I don't know, but he almost killed him. It was ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, almost. I don't know his name. He might have been even a defensive end, a linebacker or somebody, but he almost killed him. It was crazy. Yeah, that is. I think I got it here, but I mean, that was ridiculous. Absolutely absurd here.
Maybe that's the new norm. Maybe Stefanski's seeing the writing on the wall that he can exploit that. I don't know. I don't know the heights and weights of all the linebackers and defensive backs across the either. But you've been following the draft as much as I have, where you're seeing these athletic smaller linebackers or guys like Isaiah Simmons or Deion Buchanan getting taken more and more, and less of the I'm going to fill the hole tough Borland type linebackers. And maybe Stefanski's just hitting his stride early or sees the writing on the wall that he can exploit some of that stuff. I mean, because Wyatt Teller, one of the reasons why Buffalo bounced him was because his inefficiency as a pass blocker. That dude was always a road grader, I'm going to bury you kind of lineman. And he fits perfectly in Cleveland. He's a Pro Bowl player.
There we were. I had where do you I feel like a fool right now. Where do you find your bookmarks on here? Oh my gosh. Can you see what I'm doing on the screen?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's lucky for me, because who knows what I'm doing right now. Anyways, anyways, yeah, I mean, good stuff. I just feel like, here we got some good stuff here. Here we got some good stuff I'm going to play here. Sorry for the podcast right now. I always forget that, there's going to be the podcast version of the show. I apologize to podcast listeners out there where you don't get to view what's happening anymore. Just even more the reason to go to YouTube and subscribe. Make sure if you are listening on live right now or via playback that you subscribe, hit the subscribe button below, hit the like button, and hit the little notification bell. So it'll always tell you when we're live on the air here at All Eyes on Cleveland. So let me see if I could do this properly and show this beautiful gem of a stiff arm here. Are we seeing it? Killed him.
Yeah, I think that's Alex Singleton, who's alive.
Boom.
I believe he's the linebacker that was that they picked up out of the CFL, which is funny because the year he won the Grey Cup MVP trophy, which was a couple of years ago, I wanted the Browns to pick him up, and the Eagles ended up snatching him. He's been a starter ever since, which is pretty rare for a guy coming out of the CFL.
I mean, look at that.
Other than that, he had a pretty decent game, though.
He looks like he took the gloves off. He just looks so old school right there, right? Just at the neck. Like, what do you think that guy's thinking? Like, he's coming in for the tackle like, I got him. Nope.
He's embarrassed. He's getting up. He's embarrassed. See, that when you get beat like that, it's embarrassing. It drains you mentally and it drains you physically. When you get beat on the long pass or something, it doesn't really have that same effect. It just doesn't. I mean, Nick Chubb basically said, I'm a bigger, stronger, better man than you. Get on the ground. That's just defeating.
Little Hodge, 3 catches for 73 yards. Big game from him.
Yeah, played really well.
playing the air guitar. Do you know what that's all about at all?
No, I noticed that they keep doing it though.
He keeps doing it. Yeah, the air guitar. Not sure there, and then crazy.
Wyatt Teller blocking 3 guys.
Yep.
He's a beast, man. He's an absolute animal. He is the
dude. Look at it. Look at the end of it, where he just one hands this dude out of get out. Look at 23. Look at 23. Gets just one arm of Teller tossed. I mean, he is something else, man.
He was like that at Virginia Tech. He was like that at Virginia Tech. You can find it in the Browns where I wrote about how he was a hidden gem when the Browns got him. I knew he was like that at Virginia Tech, just a big road grader. I'm going to put you in the dirt. And this offense thrives on that. I think you can expect that when you're looking for linemen in the offseason from now on, is guys that are offensive linemen that want to put you in the dirt. Which I think is great.
Yeah, I do too. So that's that stuff I want to do. Just talk about that here real quick. Now, okay, so we got here to finish up here, and I want to ask you this question here before I let you go. And I've been asking this question, and it's way too early to ask this question to anybody, okay? But knowing what you know about contracts, okay, we'll start with this. Okay, we'll start with this. Ogunjobi, free agency. Are you paying him or not? Because here's I think we may have talked about this before. If he sees the free agent market, somebody else is going to overpay for him.
Yep.
And he's not coming back. So if you want to keep him, you got to pay him in the next couple weeks. And I don't think they're going to do it because I think that they think with Billings coming back off of the COVID opt-out, and Jordan Elliott is a natural progression to his position. Thoughts?
So you're saying you wouldn't re-sign him?
I'm not saying what I would do. I think I would re-sign him because he's part of this culture. Like, he was there when they lost, and he's there when they won, but like, he doesn't show up every week. He's very inconsistent right now. And that's my concern. I love Ogunjobi. I really am a big fan, and I was hoping that he could justify his signing. I would like to think they could keep him, Josh, but I don't think that Barry and DePodesta and them will keep him because there's too many other places to spend the money.
So I don't know what the contract breakdowns would be based off of, I know there's a lot that goes into it, percentage based on position and all that. But if you're just asking me, hey, you got an opportunity to sign this guy, it's a reasonable contract, what are you going to do? I'm signing him. Ogunjobi, I understand he's kind of a Cleveland fan favorite. When you talk to people that aren't associated with the Browns, they don't like him at all. He's always consistently on the low end of PFF grades. There are plays where he just doesn't show up. There are plays where he gets pushed around at an embarrassing amount. With that said, when he does show up, he's explosive. He's in your face. He can be very good. I think he would be a very good, like you said, as far as this unit goes, Sheldon Richardson, Andrew Billings, Jordan Elliott's getting a little bit better. You sprinkle some Ogunjobi in there, I think that you get impact Ogunjobi more often rather than forced to start getting pushed around, not exactly a two-gap run defender Ogunjobi, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I hope. I love him. I want him to be here. If Barry doesn't offer him a deal, somebody else is gonna pay him way more than the Browns would pay for him.
Yeah, and he can be very good somewhere else. He's got all the ability.
Yeah, I mean, because that's just how it is. I mean, that's how it is. Other teams always value your player more than you do, right? Someone will that has a need. It seems like, especially in the NFL, right? So we'll see. That was one question. Obviously, Denzel Ward is going to get his 5th-year extension.
Oh, yeah.
Baker has his 5th-year guaranteed extension hanging out there with, 6 to play now. What are you thinking here on that?
I give it to him. See, this isn't even a thought. Ogunjobi, there's a lot of variables too that I really can't answer to you. But Baker Mayfield, I pretty much have in my mind. I give him that I pick up that option. I don't think Baker Mayfield. We know that Baker Mayfield isn't terrible, right? The question is he elite? Because the Browns want an elite quarterback that they've taken at number 1. Well, there's other issues that the Browns can address while they're figuring that out, right? We know that he's not bad. We know that he's not the issue. So go shore up, like you said, the defensive back depth, the linebackers. Go figure that out. Build the rest of your team. Meanwhile, you're still trying to figure out whether or not Baker Mayfield is your guy, because he might be. He has. I mean, we've seen him. I really do believe that he is one of the most, if not the most, accurate passer in the NFL. You've seen it. You've seen him thread the needle. Now, when he misses high, and it's bad. But you've seen him thread the needle. You've seen him make excellent passes. He's got the ability. Give him another year. I mean, he's got this is his 3rd head coach in 4 years. Give him another shot.
Yeah. No question he gets next year, right? I don't think there's any question about that. He gets year 4 as the starter. He comes in as your starter. The question is if you want to put pen to paper and guarantee him $20+ million in year 5. Or there's just a couple ways to go about this, right? There's 2 questions, I think, when it comes to Baker, all right? And I said this to Doug, too, and he kind of had a really long answer, but it's an interesting way to look at it. Does it make sense for Baker Mayfield to be the Browns quarterback now and in the coming years? I say yes, no question, because changing it would just be too hard and the arrow's pointed up, right?
Yes.
I think that makes sense. The ultimate question you have to ask yourself, though, is he good enough to win anything of significance, a.k.a. a Super Bowl? Because if he's not, the first question only matters for so long.
I definitely think he is. I think that people put too much stock in having, we needed Patrick Mahomes to win the Super Bowl. I don't think that's true. I mean, Jimmy G almost won it, right? On the back of Raheem Mostert in their running game. You can win a Super Bowl that way. That it hasn't happened because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are gods, but you can do it. Trent Dilfer won it with the Ravens. Do you know what I mean? I mean, Tom Brady has had Super Bowls where he was not the god. It was the defense. You can win Super Bowls on the backs of someone else. And Baker Mayfield fits what this offense is trying to do, or at least it looks like he's starting to fit what this offense is trying to do. He moves the ball when he needs to, and he's not going to make mistakes. That's what we saw from this last game. I don't think that he would be a liability if you were in the Super Bowl. If the Browns win the Super Bowl, it's going to be because of Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt. It's good because of their running game. Baker Mayfield ain't got nothing to do with that.
Okay. That I accept that answer. I mean, that's fully the way you feel, and I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities at all, that he could be that good. You know what I mean? It's just it's a complex question with layers, because if he's not, then how? Or if he turns out to be not the guy, then how do you make the transition to another quarterback without taking 4 steps back as an organization? I think that's hard to do. I think it's almost impossible to do unless you luck shot yourself into like an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady in their final years, or whatever. But so that's why I think a lot of people are like, okay, just stay with Baker. I think he can be better, but I don't want to, he's been good, not great. And I think he's getting it, and he's getting better, and he certainly works in this offense, which I think ultimately is really important, okay? Yes. They can win in this offense with him. But you talked about his accuracy. His ball placement has been very poor. last year, early this year,
Yes.
and like I feel like he just took so many steps back, and it's like, okay, if it's gonna be Baker, then it needs to be like Baker was when he was a rookie now. But I feel like he's starting to. I've seen him, and it's not like real clear to like maybe everybody, but I feel like he's starting to go the right places with the ball. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's getting off of his first read a little bit easier and finding the answer on the field. So let's see what he does in some good weather this weekend, and we've got the rest of the year to evaluate him still. And I think he's obviously their quarterback going into next year, and I think that's all you need to know at this point, right? So I don't know. That's where I'm at with it. I really hope he's the guy. I do. I really want him to be the guy. I believe you. You think very strongly that he is going to turn it on and be that good, don't you?
And for the record, I had pre-draft, I had him behind Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen. I was a big Sam Darnold guy. Jeff Wilson was like, "Oh, my mind." I think that Baker. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You just froze for like a half a second.
And I think I have changed my mind. I think Baker's the dude. The fear that most people should be worried about, and I think that it's exacerbated, that it's made that question relevant, is because the Browns, if he is not the guy, and the Browns are sitting at 8-8, and they need a quarterback to take them over the ledge, now they find themselves in quarterback purgatory. That's what that's the problem with the New England Patriots, is they're in quarterback purgatory. They're never going to be in a prime spot to pick up a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields. So they're going to have to roll the dice on guys like Andy Dalton or Patrick Ramsey, or I'm trying to think of more starting caliber quarterbacks that got taken at the end of the first round and beginning of the second round. Derek Carr. Those guys are few and far between. And Derek Carr, he's not the answer. Patrick Ramsey was a bust. You know what I mean? I'm just naming people at the top of my head, and they're still not very good. They're not the answer. But I don't think that this offense relies on that. I think this offense is more reliant on offensive linemen, running backs, quality tight end. I think if you get a quarterback that limits the mistakes and does what he's told, I think you win. I think that's the big difference in the Baker Mayfield, what you're seeing him limited mistakes. I think that someone in his ear is saying, okay, this is what you're doing on this play, rather than him sitting back and having to read the whole defense. He already kind of knows where to go with the ball. If that's not there, I'm going here. I think it's about limiting his options. It's making him a better quarterback. I think that's kind of like why you see him roll out so often too. He's only looking at half the field.
Yeah, I think that Stefanski's done a good job with that, definitely, for sure. All right, so eventually, this was the question I initially wanted to ask you, but then I on the way there, I wanted to ask you some more longer-term questions about this contract extension. So, but the ultimate question, the way too early question that I do want to ask you is, knowing the team as it is constructed now, knowing that most of the defensive pieces, a lot of them are 1-year stopgaps, right? I mean, like 7 1-year contracts playing right now or something like that. And then you've got some young guys at linebacker that could or could not be part of this future, depending on how you evaluate them. You know, Mac Wilson hasn't had a great year.
No.
He may still be hurt a little bit. Jacob Phillips hasn't been out on the field, but I think he could be a good piece. You know, he's fast and can tackle. Your safety position, is Ronnie Harrison a part of your future? I would like to think so. What position do you see the Browns taking in the first round of the 21 draft?
Oh my God! See, I think that the days of us being able to just guess the position are over. I think that they're going to be drafted, and I think that's a good thing, because they're going to be drafted so late. They're now going to have the ability to see what falls to them as far as value. I don't think that we're going to see them reaching for positional needs anymore. I think that I think that they should be evaluating an offensive line. I think that should be a concern. They're not going to be able to pay all these guys, and depth is always a good thing in offensive line. You're definitely going to see them looking at linebackers. There's been a lot of talk about Micah Parsons. If the hype dies down on him and he falls to the middle of the first round, he could be in Cleveland. That's a difference maker on the second unit. I think I would not have said cornerback because of Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, but with the lack of depth and the fact that Greedy Williams it seems like he's never going to play, I guess I probably still wouldn't take that in the first round, to be completely honest with you, because I'm trying to bank on those two guys coming back. I'm trying to bank on Ronnie Harrison and Grant Delpit being my dudes in the defensive back, the safety too. So I guess I'm looking at linebacker, offensive line. Well, that's probably it. That's probably where my focus is going to be in the first round.
All right, I'm going to tell you who it's going to be. I'm calling it. I'm calling my shot here on this one, okay? Well, not who it's going to be. I'm going to tell you the position, all right? So the only position, there's certain positions that are valued higher than others, right? I don't think
Absolutely.
you can justify taking a linebacker in the first round unless he's like top 10 material, right? Just because linebacker is the new running back of the offense, right? Get me some young guys that can run, and if I have a good safety and a good front four, I'll be okay on defense, right? I feel like a lot of GMs feel that way. Same thing with corner. I think you already have a top 10 corner that you're invested in. It's hard to invest in another first-round corner, maybe second or third.
I agree. I 100%.
Delpit, you can't go safety there again, right? But I think it has to be the defense, and I think that the position, second to most important position on a football team, besides the quarterback, is the guy that gets to the quarterback. I think you got to go long-term solution opposite Myles Garrett in the first round. Like, your front four needs to be that good nowadays, and especially if you expect to win this way, right? AFC North, if you expect to win this way, then you need to invest a first-round pick in the player opposite him to make him maximize the money you spent on him and shore up that defense. I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, look at like what San Francisco did, all those first-round picks to get to the quarterback all year last year. But I think the defensive end is such a high-profile position; it makes sense, and it enhances the investment you've already made in Garrett.
I think that is fair. That's 100% a good point, and I think that that's pretty likely. You could see a guy like – I actually wrote an article a couple weeks ago about guys that I thought would be interesting fits with the Browns, and Gregory Rousseau from Miami was an interesting fit because he opted out. He didn't have – I don't think he's going to wow anybody athletically, so I think he could fall in the middle of rounds to Cleveland. So I do expect him to look low and hard at an edge rusher. I think we talk about linebackers not being a premium position, but when it's so – bad, and it is bad. If you can get it right, I mean, it's bad. I mean, it's an absolute liability. The goal is to try to get average there, but man, if you can get a guy like Micah Parsons, I think that it's equal as to getting a guy like as defensive end opposite Myles Garrett. With that said, Myles Garrett is also so good too that could you sacrifice size and maybe get a guy like, or maybe athleticism and get a guy like AJ Epinesa from Iowa last year who went late in the first round, and get a guy like that to play opposite Garrett because he's good. He can rush the passer. He's got a hell of a motor. He doesn't check the athletic traits that Chase Young does, so he's not going to be your number one guy. But he could be a great number two because you got Garrett on the other side. I also wouldn't count out wide receiver. I don't know how this wide receiver room is going to look next year, man. I mean, there's a lot
That's what Doug said. Doug Lesmerises asked him same question, right? He said speed receiver. You got to have a deep threat there. Speed receiver with OBJ's future being somewhat unknown.
Now, and I could see that. I don't think that's an insane answer. I know that everybody says we got OBJ and Jarvis Landry, but there is something missing there. Those guys aren't ever on the field at the same time. Blah, 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 blah. I could see them going that route. Another thing, I could totally see them doing that. I don't think that's insane at all.
Yeah, I don't think that's insane either. I thought that was interesting. I think what you have to say is certainly valid, is that it is bad enough at linebacker that if there's a guy like Parsons there, and you can shore up, if you can make the guys around him better, like I think a Phillips looks a lot better next to a Parsons, right? You know what I mean? Etc.
If you're gonna pull the trigger, you have to pull the trigger like the Steelers did with Bush. Bush came in there, they drafted him, immediately a complete badass. Or the Buccaneers, when they drafted Devin White, immediately a complete badass. The Chiefs drafted, it was the Ravens drafted the other linebacker from the LSU in the first round. He hasn't been a complete badass, but you have to, if you draft a linebacker, you have to be sure that guy is the dude. That's the thing about that. A defensive end kind of whiff, and no one's going to blame you because you have to take one because the need is there. But the linebacker, you just have to make sure he's the guy.
I see your point, definitely. It's hard to guess with the guys in charge, though. You never know. So I think they're doing a great job. I keep saying last question, but I do have one more question. Do you think that Barry missed an opportunity to make a move at the trade deadline?
Absolutely not. I don't know why everybody's so hungry for them to make trades constantly. I think that I honestly, I didn't think Dorsey was a bad GM. I thought he did more things right than he did wrong. I didn't think he drafted well, but I thought he did more things right than he did wrong. And I think he took chances that a lot of GMs don't, and I think that should be admired. But he also made some desperation moves. Barry doesn't do that. That's what trade deadlines are for, desperation moves. I'm comfortable with him doing nothing. I'm comfortable. We don't need it. We don't need to throw a Hail Mary. If you look at a lot of these trade deadline trades too, they're not good. It's usually someone getting screwed and then someone getting a lot of picks. So I'm cool with it. I'm cool with him sitting pat and being okay with that. Now, with that said, I was reading an article about, the most common thing is to trade. It's like the Ronnie Harrison trade. We traded up a late round pick for an impact player like that. That's great. If you can get more of those, that's great. But I don't think that was a move in desperation. That's something he was working on. He evaluated it. He kind of walked the line and figured out what he needed. So I'm cool with him not making a move.
I get what you're saying totally, and especially because we don't know what the salary cap's going to be.
Exactly.
It could be super low, and every rollover dollar is gonna be beneficial versus everybody else in the NFL, right? So that's one point to be made there. However, I do think that when you have a shot, I think you got to take it in the NFL because you're not promised to be here next year. Like, the NFL is so up and down. Like, one good year doesn't mean you're going to be good next year for sure, right? Like, we see teams go from good to bad to good to bad year in, year out. The ball bounces one way and you lose, 3 games in a row. The ball bounces another way in one season and it's the exact opposite. And it could be the same exact team. Could be the same exact talent. It's a matter of like 3 to 5 plays every week, right? That make the difference in some of these games. And it's going your way. You have an opportunity. Plus, I think even if it was like a small buy, like a couple $1 million for like a secondary piece that really would come in handy right now, this week especially, and that's total hindsight being 2020. So don't, I'm just saying that it would help right now, but it's a morale boost too. It's like, hey, we believe in you type of thing, and you add that piece to the locker room is always like, for defenses sometimes can change their identity, like where they were getting walked all over there for a couple of weeks before the bye. The defense wasn't getting off the field on any third downs, forced 1 punt in 2 weeks. Like, you add a player in the locker room, right? And it's kind of like, okay, they believe in us, and that could change everything. Now, you can do the same thing on your bye week and change some scheme and give it a new feel and it can feel like a rebirth too. And maybe that's what they've done. I mean, they have looked much different and much better since the bye week. But I think that getting a player at the trade deadline is another way to breach that, and it's like a seize the moment type thing. Browns haven't been here in 20 some odd years. They haven't beat the Eagles since 1994, haven't been in the playoffs since 2002. You're 7-3. You're sitting right there. Now, at the time, they weren't 7-3, but you're sitting right there in a playoff hunt. What are you waiting for? So
who would you have made the move for?
I don't know. I think that at the time, the Vikings probably would have listened to some of your offers for either of their safeties were supposedly on the block, Anthony Harris, especially. Now, what you do with him long term, I don't know, because Barry was very clear that he didn't want to go after a player that wasn't going to be there long term. He didn't want a rental, right? So that takes a lot of guys out of the equation. But there was some guys out there. There were some corners out there at the time. I had a list back then. It's long gone now because so is the trade deadline. But like Roby Coleman, we just saw play for Philly. He was on the list. Guys like that. Just not even great players, but just a player. An NFL caliber player, just to add in the mix, I could have helped.
I think that's fair. If you have someone in mind, there were definitely a couple of trades that I saw at the deadline that I was like, damn, I wish the Browns would have made an offer. I'm not saying that I didn't see anything that didn't raise my eyebrow. I don't have an issue with him not doing anything. I know there was a lot of noise at the trade deadline that something big was going to happen, and I just kind of rolled my eyes at the time. Like, well, we don't need anything big. We just need to do what's right instead of making noise. But I totally see what you're saying. If the value is right, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think you're right too. Like, I wasn't mad at it at the time, but I think presented in a different way, I kind of looked at it like, this might have been an opportunity missed to.
That's fair.
Yeah, but at the time I was kind of where you are still, like, okay, I trust Barry, and if he wants to stand pat, then I'm cool with that, and let's just see. But it's, Scott, my old partner, always used to say to me, like, NFL isn't one of those sports or leagues where there's carryover. Like, winning the last 5 games in an NFL season does not affect the next NFL season at all. Like, it's a total fresh start, right? And there's no carryover. Like, and it's proven. Like, if you look at the numbers, it doesn't matter at all. Like, one thing doesn't, like, there's no carryover. And he would always give me examples and examples and examples of this, and I would be like, yeah, whatever. But I can hear him talking to me in my head when I'm thinking about that. Like, hey, man, you're only guaranteed this season for what it is now. We don't know what's going to happen next year, even though the arrow looks pointed up. Who knows who gets hurt? Who knows what's happened when? It's tough. The NFL's like that. I think you can build your team up over years. Like, I'm not saying that's not the arrow is still pointed up for the Browns. I think no matter what happens the rest of this season, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, I think his point does ring true. And if you look at teams like the Jaguars, who look like the future of the AFC, and then you look at them now, right?
Yeah.
Or other examples like that. That happens a lot.
Never to go back again. So you're not guaranteed tomorrow. I totally see that. Totally.
Let's see here. Any parting thoughts for us tonight here, Josh? Josh Keatley, my fantastic guest, former star running back at Valparaiso. Now the my colleague at USA Today Sports Media Group's The Browns Wire. He does excellent work on. I just saw your article today on the Rookie League. You want to talk about that for a minute? That was pretty cool.
The Spring League? Oh yeah,
Spring League. Yeah.
Shame it got shut down, man. There's a lot of good guys out there that have the kind of talent that should allow them to get a shot. I don't know how familiar you are with the Spring League. The Spring League's been around for a little bit. Manziel, Greg Hardy, and Kellen Winslow were actually all in the Spring League a while back. But yeah, there was a couple guys that kind of shined. I thought Shea Patterson really shined. Shea Patterson has always had NFL talent. I don't think anybody would argue with that. He's just an idiot and makes bad decisions with the football. Right? He just makes bad decisions with the football, plain and simple, right? Well, it seemed like he cleaned up a lot of that in the Spring League. He did have one game where he did throw 3 picks, but that didn't seem like a normal occurrence. It's okay to throw 3 picks when you're getting the crap kicked out of you, but when you have the lead, and he limited a lot of those crucial interceptions. I think that deserves some. I think he deserves a longer look. There was a wide receiver from Eastern Michigan, Matthew Sexton. He got a shot with the New England Patriots. He ran a 4.44 at his pro day. He didn't really produce a lot at Eastern Michigan because he played at Eastern Michigan. But I think that he probably deserves a shot. He looked really good, had a punt return touchdown the second week. There's only 3 weeks of football because they had to cancel early because of COVID. But I thought that he was a guy. Ricky Aguero, who was Roberto's younger brother at Florida State. He had a really good spring league. He was 5 for 5 in one game, a couple of them over 45 yards. If any time you can get accuracy and consistency in the NFL kicker, I think that you should probably take a look.
Oh, for sure.
Channing Stribling, another former Brown at cornerback. He's still only 25 years old. People forget he was kind of a sweetheart. A training camp sweetheart a while back. It was too slow, but very dominant at Michigan. Well, it looks like he's cleaned up. You can never really fix speed, but you can fix your timing. With the respect you give the wide receiver as far as cushion and flipping your hips and that kind of stuff. So it looks like he kind of worked on that. That's a harder thing to judge because he's not playing against NFL athletes. He's playing the spring league. And there was a tight end. Oh my gosh, the name eludes me, but he's a tight end. He was at Auburn, had very little production, kind of like CJ Azum when he came out. Looks like he's put on about 20 pounds. He moved down to tight end in the spring league. That could be someone I could see the Browns taking and being very, very productive, maybe a late bloomer. Those tight ends are weird sometimes. But yeah, the spring league is a fun watch. I like watching those alternate leagues. I like watching guys get an opportunity to chase their dream.
Yeah, you do a great job with a lot of the prospect and draft coverage over at The Wire and the Browns Wire, and I urge you to tune into the Browns Wire podcast with Josh Keatley and his new partner, right?
James.
You can get that where all popular podcasts are found, correct?
That's right. That is right.
That's right. And Josh, former football player himself, as I mentioned, running back at Valparaiso, and an outstanding job tonight. Thank you so much. You were fantastic. This card boomeranged right back at me here. There we go. And yes, I had a blast. It was a good time. I'm glad we got to talk this out here before the holidays. It'll be our only show this week, so. Lots of people can watch it here going into the holidays and getting ready for the Jaguars. I have an idea for so I can get a lot of people on this stream, right? Like I can get up to 10. we'd be really small on the screen, but but I'm thinking you, Risden, somebody else, maybe we can get a little round table going, maybe on Sunday mornings or Saturdays or whatever. So if you're down with that, I'll mark you down, and when the time comes and we get to All Eyes on Cleveland round table, I'm gonna bring you back in.
Hell yeah, I'm always down for that, brother. Thanks.
All right, man. You're a gentleman and a scholar. You do great work. Make sure you follow Josh Keatley on Twitter as well, at Josh Keatley16. Any parting words, sir?
No, that's it. Go Browns.
All right, sir. Have a good one tonight, and thank you for coming on, as always. crazy. Taki handled that thing nicely. Surprising. Whoop! Handled it nicely, took it in. And if you watch off the edge there, Denzel is kind of like, he hesitates a few times and then he goes. And good stuff there. As we watch that play over and over and enjoy it as the Browns are 7-3. Thanks so much to Josh Keatley for coming on. All Eyes on Cleveland. The podcast can be found where all popular podcasts are found, and the simulcast is now available at YouTube, where I urge you to subscribe, hit the little bell for notification for when we go live. Our only show this week with the holidays coming up. Wish you all happy Thanksgiving. And have a safe and wonderful holiday. Before we get up and out of here, I want to make my case again for one Kevin Stefanski as the coach of the year. I think he should be right there with Tomlin and Flores, and they got Frank Reich and Mike Vrabel on here. So this is Bet Online. You can see it on the screen up there somewhere. Up there, yep. Right there. And they are one of our sponsors, Bet Online. And I've got the odds here, straight from Bet Online. And this is the Coach of the Year odds that I wanted to hit real quick before we got up and out of here tonight. But Mike Tomlin, of course, in the lead at plus 100 for your odds for Coach of the Year. Brian Flores at plus 500. Frank Reich plus 900. Mike Vrabel plus 900. Mike Vrabel, Ohio's own, went to Walsh Jesuit High School just down the road here from where I'm broadcasting the show in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Kevin Stefanski plus 1,200, tied with Sean Payton and Sean McDermott at 8 plus 1,800. Sean McVay plus 1,800. John Gruden plus 1,800. Andy Reid plus 2,000. Bruce Arians plus 2,500. And Cliff Kingsbury plus 2,500. There are your Coach of the Year odds. Stefanski coming in 5th on here, or tied for 5th with Sean Payton. I think he deserves more credit than that. You think about what the Browns have been through. They come into this thing, and there it is. So, and he's able to get your team to win at this level, doing what he's done. He's changed the culture, evident by, I point to Hollywood Higgins as the perfect example of how he changed the culture. Is so different than it was before, and just a guy who a year ago was a malcontent and then now is didn't see playing time but stayed ready, and when he got an opportunity took advantage of it, and then goes to the press and says, the coach believed in me the whole time. I've been waiting the whole time. I knew he believed in me the whole time. I love coach this, that, the other. You hear your quarterback reiterating the same phrases and words that your head coach says. These are all things and signs of the outside that you see that the culture is changing on the inside. Last thing tonight on culture. There's an article out now about the Cincinnati Bengals. It's something that would have came out about the Browns years ago. It's about their culture. They're calling it a college-type atmosphere culture. People supposedly not being forthcoming because afraid of losing playing time. They're looking into it supposedly in Cincinnati, but it's not a very flattering article. You can go check it out. It's about the Cincinnati Bengals culture and it being worse than a college program's culture at times this year. Interesting stuff when you look around the AFC North. I really hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. Josh Keatley was fantastic. Mikey's been amazing on the ones and twos as usual. Thank you so much, for listening. If you're on the podcast, keep tuning in. Or if you want to, you can switch over to Facebook Live, Periscope, or YouTube on the simulcast. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button. More importantly, hit the subscribe button. Keep coming back. The little notification bell will remind you every time that we are live on the air. And with that, for Mikey on the ones and twos, good job, my man. My name is Brad Ward. This has been another edition of All Eyes on Cleveland. Browns are 7-3. Have a great holiday. We are out.